Hey, all right. Hey, Jeremy, I want to thank you so much for taking some time to have this conversation with me. I'm excited to introduce you as the board chair of Abolition Men Collective. And for me, that's been particularly awesome because our friendship has gone back for so many years. In fact, I was just thinking about it, and it goes back to the mid '90s.
Crazy. We're old, man.
That's pretty scary. That explains some of the gray hairs that we have. But it's been cool to see how we reconnected around this issue. And I love that when you heard about this, and you'll share your story, of course, that you were just kind of like all in from the beginning. So for me, that's just been really, really exciting. And I'm just so grateful that you are the board chair of Abolition Men Collective. But I wanted to give you, I think it's important to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. And I think the way we'll start is just tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, family, how you got involved with Abolition Men Collective.
Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Morris. I'm the board chair of Abolition Men Collective. I'm a senior systems engineer, so I work in IT. I work with servers and network engineering for a mega yacht company in West Palm Beach. I'm married, been married for 11 years now, 3 kids, 7-year-old twins and a 4-year-old, so it's all hands on deck here. And it's funny, I went back through our text and you came over to my house. It was September 14th last year, 2019. You came over and you were talking about abolition men. It's funny because we were talking and you mentioned it and I was like, oh, cool, okay. And then you left and I texted you. I'm like, hey, didn't you say you were talking about it somewhere?
Yeah.
Can I come? So
Right.
I think I came and showed up and I was stoked. I was like, you got like halfway through the presentation. I was like, hey, are you gonna ask the question of how people can get involved?
Yeah.
So, I think by November, I think is when we kind of became official, and that's when I became chairman of the board.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to be that friend that was like, hey, you have to come to my thing the next day. So I'm really glad that you did that follow up and we're like, yeah, aren't you speaking about this? And yeah, can I come? So that's awesome, man. So yeah, a lot has happened in a fairly short period of time. And as you just shared, your involvement kind of went very quickly. You heard about this and then you were all in. So what motivated you the most to want to get involved in Abolition Men? Why was it so instantaneous for you, if you will?
God had just preparing my heart, and I hate to spiritualize things too much, but I had went through a training for my local church to be an elder. So with the twins, I hadn't been quite as involved in a church and in volunteering as much as I'd liked, but I was staying home and I was letting my wife kind of get some time, and she had been very involved with the church and different things. So I went through this elder training, and just not to get to the details, but it didn't end up that I became an elder. But God had put on my heart, he's like, I need you to do something. So he kind of used that time to prepare me and to say, hey, I need you to step into this role here. Maybe I didn't have this for you, but I had abolition men for you on the other side. So I was really ready to do something. And then when you were speaking and I was there, I realized how much I needed this when I was growing up. I mean, I just grew up in a way that I didn't have somebody talking to me about these kind of things. And I just needed to know. I mean, my life could have been so much different than some of the struggles I went through if somebody would have told me about some of these things when I was growing up, to not, get involved in that. And the last thing that just jumped off the page at me was my kids. I mean, as a father of 3 young children, and boy-girl twins really kind of make some things jump out at you. I mean, I know you have girls, so you see it, but Kate and I were just talking about this, and we went to get pajamas for the kids. It's a stupid little story. It's nothing, but like just the way the pajamas are made to fit little girls versus little boys. Mm-hmm. It's just so disturbing when you really like step back and look at it. It's like at 6 years old, they're being groomed in a way to say, hey, look at my body. And it really disturbed me. And we were really struggling with it as parents. Like, how do we avoid this? Where do we get clothes that'll look good? And right on time, you were kind of talking about that message and the, event you had that night.
Yeah, wow, that is really powerful, Jeremy. I think there's a lot of that a lot of men can relate to in everything you just shared. One, I can remember too feeling the same way, that why didn't anybody tell me about this? When I first got exposed to how the demand for commercial sex was impacting me personally as a man, there is that initial feeling of like, why didn't someone tell me about this?
Yeah.
It can help us navigate something. It really kind of felt like abandoned, by culture and just by people, that this was overlooked. So, but then again, yeah, being a father and seeing how it's already happening in the culture around us,
Yeah.
and how much we were overlooking or not paying attention. I love that it was already registering with you as a parent, that, hey, something is wrong about this. I think now it's just about being able to put a name on that. Like, why does it feel uncomfortable, or why is it uncomfortable? The way that the way these messages are starting to, that our children are beginning to interact with at really young ages. So that's really, really powerful. So, and this kind of will go into that, obviously you had your own personal experience, and as a man, and then as a father. Why do you think it's important that we specifically talk to men about the issue of ending the demand for commercial sex? Why is that an important mission?
I just really think it's huge. And I know I had some of these questions ahead of time, so I've been trying to cheat. But the short answer is that if we're not talking about them, if we're not talking to them about it, then somebody else will be. And the question is, who else is that's going to be talking to them? And it's most likely not going to be somebody with a good message. It's going to be, movies, it's going to be peers, it's going to be magazines, it's going to be the porn industry. It's like, if we're not talking to men about this and educating them and giving them, like you just said, we're not giving them the confidence and words to speak about this, somebody else will be. So I think it's huge at this point in time.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And that's a really, really important point. It's not that, just because we opt out of the conversation doesn't mean the conversation isn't being had, and that the messages aren't, being had, so, and we don't want to be caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
Where we're just like, I don't know. And I think as fathers and men, we can get caught flat-footed a lot when it comes to this topic, like, oh, that's embarrassing, or I don't know what to say. So we just kind of like change the subject or try to avoid it.
Here, let's have another treat, and get away from it. But
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, really being able to empower men to have this conversation, because I think what we're finding, Jeremy, even you and I in our conversations, and then being able to start talking about it with other people, is that it's not as scary as it seems.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Not as intimidating or awful. And if we can approach this conversation in the right way with men, what we're finding is that more men are willing to have this conversation. It's not like they're like, oh, whoa, don't talk about that. It's like, no, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's very true. It's like, I remember when you were speaking about it, I was like, man, he's getting up there and talking about this. And then, like, I would start talking to a couple people about it, or bringing it up here and there. And then I just found myself talking to just random people at random times, and I'm like, oh, I'm too much like Derek now on this. So
yeah. Yeah, it can be a problem.
You got to find that filter. But it's important to not, because people know if you're, sincere about it. They know, they can see that, hey, it's not awkward for you, so that makes it not awkward for them.
That's right. Yeah. So true. All right. So lastly, as you know, at Abolition Men, we have a holistic approach to ending the demand. And it's really centered around our 4 initiatives. And those initiatives are accountability, intervention, awareness and education, and cultural change. And we really do believe that through those 4 initiatives, that's going to give us the best chance to end the demand for commercial sex. That one, it is possible. It's not a matter of if we can or if it's possible, but it really is a matter of our priorities and are we willing to do what it takes. So out of those 4 initiatives, though, which one fires you up the most? You know, which one do you, because I do think that everyone is going to gravitate to 1 or 2 of these initiatives. And I'm curious, what is that for you, Jeremy?
I really think it's awareness. I really just feel like this is out there and people just aren't thinking about it, or they're either just putting their head in the sand and saying, hey, I don't want to hear about it. I mean, I know I was guilty of that, but I think we just have to pound this home that, hey, there's this culture out there, the sex industry that's just driving this demand, that's driving people's influence. Too many times we see people make a silly joke or make an inappropriate joke, and we're just like, oh, that's Jimbo being Jimbo or whatever it is. We just let that go, boys being boys. But as men, we're called to more of that. We got to call people out and hold them accountable for these things that are just not the appropriate way to be handling themselves. And just too many times, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, there's so many times that I've done things because I was in a situation and I was too scared or didn't have the confidence to stand up to that and say, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable, because I would have been shamed or people would have kind of looked at me as like less of a man. But we need to make people aware. So the awareness and education of giving people the words and the strength and the courage to stand up and say, you know what, that's not right. I'm not going to do that. And, I don't think you really should be either. And because there might be another person there that's thinking the same thing, and they just need that first person to step up.
Yeah.
The way it is.
Yes, very good. I agree. And awareness and education is so important. We do think, I know you and I agree that that's kind of like the starting point, because there is a lot of misinformation or this isn't registering for a lot of people. Like, is this even an issue? Why should we even talk about the demand for commercial sex, that kind of thing? And but once we do educate people and we start feeling empowered, especially as men, to use our voice and talk about this issue, it's amazing how quickly we can see how important this issue really is. Yeah. And you turn the light switch on for people. And yeah, it's amazing how quickly then men can go, wow, not only did I not know that, but man, this really is impacting me and impacting my children, and I care about this, so that's really good. Anything else you want to share in closing?
I don't think so. I just think I'd like, guys to know that, hey, if you're out there thinking about this, if you know about this a little bit, we're here to talk, man. We're here to help you out and get you on board, and we need more people too. We need, people to get involved. We need people to be a part of this, and we're just excited to see where God takes it and where He takes us with this.
Absolutely, yeah. I know, and you and I having this conversation, we hope that it will encourage other people, one, to have the conversation, but also for men to have the conversation with us. There's a lot that we understand about this issue and mission, but we don't understand everything. And I think the more that we have conversation with other men about this, the stronger and better we'll be. So we're very excited about that. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking some time to have this conversation, for introducing yourself as the Board of Abolition Men and letting us know what gets you excited about this mission and what we can do to end it.
Thanks, Derek.
Yep. All right, man.